All right. Well, we would once again like to give you a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us this morning for our session to learn a little bit more about one of the Office apps we all know and love, Microsoft Word. So let's very briefly go over our agenda for this morning. We will start off with a brief welcome and introduction, some about Inova details, very brief, no more than 80 slides. No, it's just 3 slides, I'm kidding. And then we'll move right on to the meat and potatoes of today's presentation. We'll be learning a bit more, some tips and tricks about Word, things that we may not know despite the time that we've been using this application. We'll have a brief knowledge check using the very fun Kahoot app. And if you are the highest scoring person in the knowledge check, you will win. Bragging rights is really all I can offer you, but it's something. You can use it to go to your boss and say, hey, I was the highest scoring person in this big presentation. Let's talk about that raise again. And then after that, we'll close with some questions and answers. See if you have any burning things you'd like to know. We will go ahead and help you get answers to those. Our speaker for today is Jermaine McDonald. He's our Microsoft Word lead and also a part of our Modern Workplace Task Force. So it's a privilege to have him here with us today. Very briefly, we'd like to look at who Inova Solutions is and what we do. We are, of course, the best Microsoft licensing solution provider in the Caribbean. Our mission is to empower organizations of all sizes to create business advantages by adopting digital transformation. And what that means is that we want to help you on your journey to your to digital transformation and to the cloud. We want to be your passport on that journey. We want to be your allies side by side with you, step by step through the whole process. Some quick facts about Inova. Our headquarters are in Curacao, where some of our key and shared departments are located, such as legal, accounting, marketing. But we have regional offices in several locations, including Ecuador, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and Puerto Rico. These regional offices each have their own licensing, sales, and tech specialists to better serve you in the region that you are in. We have customers on some 3 continents. We've been the winner of the Microsoft Partner of the Years for 7 years running now, and we use what we sell. That's very important because that means that we know the tools that we are selling you because whatever it is, Microsoft Word, Outlook, 365, Azure, it's implemented in some Inova office. And so we know the challenges that you may face during your implementation and use of these tools, and we can help you ensure that you get the most out of them. But how exactly do we do that? Well, Inova Solutions offers several services, from of course the sale of licenses to licensing consulting, which is particularly key in Microsoft environments. Should you license that server using the server cal model or the per core model? Do you have to apply license stacking? What even is license stacking? We can help you answer these questions and ensure that you are getting the most from your Microsoft agreements. We can also help you implement these tools and ensure that your team is trained in using and maintaining them. We can help with adoption and change management and transforming processes as you adopt digital transformation. We can help you optimize the usage of the licensing that is already available to you, ensuring that you make the most out of things like software assurance rights. And of course, we also provide support both for your IT department and for your end users. Without much more ado, I'd like to take the opportunity to hand things off to my colleague, Jermaine. Jermaine, would you mind sharing your desktop and that way you can control the presentation?
Sure. Let me know if you're able to see.
I'm queuing that up now. Give me just one moment. You're on.
Okay, great. All right, so thank you to everyone who has joined. I can't see you because I'm only using one screen this morning, but it's definitely a pleasure to do this. This never gets old for me. I really enjoy doing this part of the job. So we're just going to be talking today about just some features of Word that you may not be used to. If you've been using Word like me for over 20 years, there's still some features that maybe you don't take advantage of depending on what it is that you're doing. So before we jump right into that though, I wanted to just give you an overview for just in case there's that person who has never used it before. Word or Microsoft Word is an Office application. It has been going back over 20 years, as I've said. It is now a part of the Office 365 or Microsoft 365 suite. So it is not, it's available as a part of that bundle. It is an excellent tool in the suite of collaboration software that Microsoft provides. And it's something that we use at Inova every single day, as Nestor mentioned. So there is a online version of Word called Word Online. You can simply do a web search for it and you'll have access to it. And it will have sort of a scaled down version of the full suite, but you're still able to do basic edits at no cost from your desktop or mobile device. So in terms of some of the benefits of using Word, if you'd like to have something to take away, you do have the benefit to work from any device. So I have Word installed on my tablet, on my work PC, my personal PC, and I pretty much work with the same documents from all devices. And all of that is enabled through a workload we call OneDrive. It's easy for me to collaborate with my colleagues whenever I need to. And the benefit that I have of using Word as a part of Office 365 is that I always have access to the latest version. Now, what this means is that even as I go through the demo here today, there may be some aspects of the interface that looks different for you, and that's because I'm using the latest version and you may not be. You do have the ability with Office 365 to have multiple plans. All plans, though, will come with Microsoft Word. So that's a big plus there. And there are definitely built-in security features as a part of the Office and Microsoft 365 suite. So what I'm going to be going through today, the format that I'm going to be using is I'm going to be sharing some slides with some key features, and then I'll do an interactive demo near the end. So these features that I'm going to share with you are features that I use, features that I find very valuable and that I thought would make a useful presentation for you. So in order for you to follow along, depending on how you're viewing this presentation, if you're viewing from one screen, you may not be able to look at what I'm doing and follow along at the same time. If you're using multiple screens, you can have Word opened on a separate screen to see if you can try and follow along. That's up to you, but this webinar will be made available afterwards, so you can always go through it at that point. So these are the features that I'm going to be sharing with you today. The very first thing that you want to do as a power user of Word is customize your interface. Now, the very first thing I do once I'm using a brand new application, if I've just set up my PC and I've installed Office, the first thing I'm doing is customizing the interface. So that's what I'm going to show you to do, some basic customizations that may just make it easier for you to work. We're going to look at some keyboard shortcuts, maybe some shortcuts that everyone knows, like Control S to save, Control X to cut, Control C to copy, things like that some persons may not be aware of. We're going to look at how you can collaborate in real time. So I shared a document previouspreviously with my colleagues, and we're going to be working on it together. And then I'm going to talk about what collaboration will look like. I will show you how to generate automatically a table of contents from a document that you're working on. It's something that I find that not a lot of persons know how to do well, so I thought it would make a useful addition. Then we're going to go over a feature that I'm still enjoying and learning how to use, and that's voice dictation. It's built in to Office 365, so if you don't have that feature, it's because you're probably on the desktop only version of Word, so you may want to look into that. Then we're going to have some questions to find out who has bragging rights, as Nestor mentioned, so stay tuned for that. All right, so the first thing that you want to do, as I mentioned, is customize your interface. And to do that, there's a file option to the left of your Word application. Once you click on that, to the bottom left, you'll see options, and that will bring you to the screen that you're seeing here. So one of the first things that I like to do is customize the general section, you know, the interface, how it looks, that's the background and the theme. And that's because I like to just make it a little bit different than the out the box flavor that usually comes. And once you make that change here, actually for Office, it customizes it across all the applications. So that's one pretty cool thing about it. I also changed some display features, and I'll go through that as well. I'll customize my proofing options as well. So for example, if I'm working on a document and I'd like some of the proofing settings to not apply to that document, I can do what's called an exception. So I'll show you how to do that. We look at some options on how you can save documents, where they'll be available, and so forth. Then we look at the advanced section, and I know for a lot of users, you probably have never looked at this section, but it's very, very powerful to use and take advantage of. And then the last thing we're going to look at is the quick access toolbar. That's the bar to the top left of the Word interface. Usually what you'll see there are the buttons to save or to undo, but you can actually customize that toolbar. You can add functions there that are most useful to you. So for me, I would add format options, because one of the things that I do a lot is customize text. So I'll be, you know, changing the font, because internally, for example, for all of our documents, we have a standard font and format that we use. So having that quick access toolbar customized with those options are extremely useful for me. Next, you know, in terms of keyboard shortcuts, you know, what you're seeing on the screen. So let's say, for example, I'm typing a letter and I want to just add the current date or even the current time. You can simply press Alt, Shift, and D. So if you're not familiar with that keyboard combination, the Alt key is typically right, well, to the left or right of the space bar on your keyboard. So if you look down right now, you'll see Alt, Shift is to the far left, and D is in the second row in terms of the characters. So you just press them one after the other, and within that Word document, it will add the current date or the current time if you press Alt, Shift, and T. Now the format of the date may be something that you want to customize, but by default, it should show month, date, and year. So the next thing that we have here is just a list of some of the basic shortcuts that I think may be useful for you. These shortcuts can actually be customized. That's not really the scope of the presentation that I'm doing today, but just know that you can customize it. So these are some of the ones that you may need to use regularly. So it's worth noting. In terms of keyboard shortcuts, what I like to do is try to learn a new one each week. Don't try to memorize all of them, that may be too much, but each time you're using the application, try to use one shortcut. So instead of using the mouse to bring it all the way across to hit save, why not just press Control S? If you want to close a document, instead of going all the way to the top of the screen to press X, why not press Control W? So that's the way that you can think about just adopting these shortcuts, so that over time, over a few months or even over a few years, you'll actually start to save precious seconds in working with documents. And it's also pretty cool to leverage the copy or cut and paste shortcuts as well. So it's worth, you know, having a look at those. So what you can do if you're watching this webinar on again, you know, just pause it, copy and practice these shortcuts, and then you'll see what happens each time you'll use them. So the next feature that we're going to look at is the dictation feature. Now this is, as I said before, only available in Office or Microsoft 365. So if you don't see the dictate button when you when you're on the home screen, it should be to the far right. If you're not seeing it there, then that means you're not using Office 365. If you are and you don't see it, then it could be a setting that needs to be toggled. You need to be sure that your mic is enabled. So once your mic is enabled, then you can simply click on Dictate, have the cursor at the point that you want to start typing, and once you speak, the words will start to appear on the screen. You do have the ability to punctuate by speaking as well. So for example, if I say the word period, or if I say full stop, or if I say comma, it's going to put that into the text. And then how I normally use this is that if, for example, I'm making notes while I'm working on a document, I'll be speaking, making notes, and then when I'm ready to edit that document, just in case it may have gotten a few of the words wrong, or the text, there's some things that you may need to, I guess it's almost to train it if you want to use that word. And then once it is that you start to get the hang of it, then you'll know which words to use or how to enunciate the words well enough for it to detect it. Because, for example, if you have a strong accent, or if you speak, in a way that it may not be able to pick up certain words clearly, you'll just have to get used to that. But it's a fairly accurate tool. I'd say maybe about 90% or more accurate based on my experience in using it. And it's something that we'll have a look at during the live demo. The next feature that we're going to look at is the collaborate feature. And this is where you can share a document. So to the top right of your Word application, you'll see the option to share. Once you type share, it's going to, if that document is not currently on OneDrive, it will ask you to save it to OneDrive. Once it's saved to OneDrive, you can now share it using a couple of options. You can copy a link, send it to persons, or it will email them directly with that link, telling them that a document is made available to them, and they have the option to work in it. Now, co-authoring is something that we use here a lot, even to prepare this presentation. The team and I worked on it together. So what happened this morning, for example, when I came in this presentation, I was able to see that changes were made overnight by the team, and I can see what those changes are and how, if just in case there's anything I need to change, I can now take action on that. So to collaborate, I can use the browser, the desktop app for Word, or I can do it within Microsoft Teams. And what you're seeing here is just some of that in action. So you do have, my personal preference is to edit within the desktop app. For some reason, though I know I can use the browser, I have a personal preference for the desktop app, but it's all the same. I could also edit that document if, for example, I'm a part of a team. That document can be in the file section of that team, and I can edit it from there. And all the persons that I'm working on that document with will see those changes happening in real time. And we'll see what that looks like on the next screen. So what you'll see is what we call a flag. So that flag shows, and the flags will be different colors based on how many persons are in the application. So if, for example, I'm working on a document and you're working on the same thing, you'll see a flag comes up with my name, Jermaine, working on this document, and you'll see where I'm working on it. So you can work around me. So typically you want to have some sort of coordination when you're working on a document at the same time, because of course you don't want to be working on the same things together. So usually you have a discussion to say, okay, I'm going to be working on section 1, you're working on section 2, and so forth. I've even had situations where we're on a Teams call together and we're working on the document at the same time. So the next feature that we're going to have a look at is the table of contents. Now, this is something that if you're in university, you'd be using this a lot for every single project. But depending on what you do for work or otherwise, typically you think of the table of contents as the final thing before you know submit that document. It is something that's very powerful. You do have the option to access it under the References tab. So there's a drop down for table of contents, and I've shared that screenshot here. You have two options: automatic table 1 or table 2. It's more or less the same, except one says contents, the other says table of contents. So it really depends on your preference. Either way, it can be customized afterwards, as I'll show you in the live demo. You also have the manual option. I never choose the manual option because why would I? So the manual option means that I would have to manually build that table of contents. And if you're working on a large document, you certainly don't want to do that. Now, the key to generating a table of contents is highlighting and formatting the headers as headings. So you have headings 1, 2, or 3, and you do have the option to have your table of contents. So let's say you have, section 1, header 1, 2, and 3. If you want it to be listed in that way, it can be done so. If you want to just have the main sections, so your introduction, your executive summary, your overview, you can simply format those as headers, and once you go to build this table of contents, it will automatically populate. Now, a quick tip here that I see sometimes will happen to persons is that they won't realize that the document is formatted in the wrong way. So you may see some lines or text being introduced in the table of contents that's not meant to be headers. If that happens, that's okay. That's a simple fix. You go to that location in the document. So from the table of contents, if you press Control click, I believe it takes you from that link in the table of contents to that point in the document, and you can choose to format that text appropriately. So let's say that something appears as a header, but I don't want it to be, as a heading, sorry, and I don't want it to be. I simply change that format, update my table of contents, and now it's no longer showing there. Next, we look at the status bar. And now for this one, it's to the bottom left of your screen. Well, really to the bottom of your Word application. You do have the ability to customize the status bar. Not many people are aware of this. So to do that, you simply right click on the status bar and you'll see the different things that are enabled. So for example, you can select the focus option. You can choose for it to show the line that you're in and things like that. So if you right click on your status bar right now, you'll be able to see some options that you can customize. And then to the far right of the status bar, you have some reading modes. So the very first one that looks like a book that's opened will allow you to switch the document to reading mode. That makes it a little bit easier to read. The next one is a standard one that most persons are aware of. And then the third one, I believe, is a web version, if I'm not mistaken. And then to the far right, you can zoom in and out of the document. The last feature that I'm not sure we have time to fully go into, but you do have the option to do a translate of text within that document. So to do that, you simply highlight some text, you go to translate, it's under the review tab, and then you'll see a language section. So you simply highlight that text, go to translate selection, then a translator tab open up. Let me actually show that on the next screen. A translator window pops up to the right, and then it will detect the text that's being used, and it will give you some options to translate that text to. Now, this is not 100% accurate because depending on the language that you're choosing, there may be some nuances to that language that may not be there. So it's always good to have somebody review that text that is translated just in case. So if it's not your primary language, you may want to have someone review it just in case there are words that may not be the best to use depending on the intent of your document. So those are all the features that I've gone through. Now I'm going to do a quick demo. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second here. So I'm going to go through a quick demo. So I have only 5 minutes. I'm going to focus on 2 key areas of the demo. So I'm going to stop sharing. Then I'm going to go quickly to Microsoft Word. And if there are any questions, I'll get to it as soon as I'm able to. All right, so you should be seeing the word application now. So as I was saying before, in the very first example, the options tab is where you'd go to make some basic customizations. So what I was saying before in terms of showing that names for the co-authoring example that was used, that's at the very bottom of the general section called show names on presence flags. So that's what it's called. I have it checked, so that means I can see the names of the persons I'm sharing that document with and how they're working. We also looked at changing the theme. So right now I'm using the dark gray theme with the doodle diamonds background. I'm going to change that to circuit, and I'm going to change it to a colorful theme. I'm going to choose OK, and then you'll see the interface change. All right, so I'm going to go back to options real quick. We're going to look at display. Now there are options that you can change for what you see on the screen in terms of formatting. So you do that from the display tab. So I'm going to enable spaces, and what that is going to do is show me dots in between spaces for the characters on the document, and you'll see what that looks like in a second. Next, we spoke about proofing. You do have some options here that you can customize. So for example, you can choose to ignore words that are in uppercase, or if you scroll to the very bottom, as I mentioned, you do have the option to make exceptions for that document that you're in. So I have 3 documents open. I can see all 3 of them here, and I can choose to have spelling errors not shown for this document that I'm in now. That's up to you. It depends, because sometimes you're working on a document and you're seeing a whole lot of, red squiggly lines, and it just kind of maybe a little distracting for you. So you can turn that off right there. The last one I'll show you for this example is a quick access toolbar that I mentioned. So the font size one is an area that I mentioned for me I use a lot. So I have it here added, and to do that, you search on the left hand side for the options that you want to add. So for example, I want to add shapes. I can just simply add, and once I click OK, all the changes that I've made are saved. And to the top right, well, top left, I'm now able to see shapes from the quick access toolbar. So that was some of the customization options that I shared with you. Next, I'm gonna do real-time collaboration. So this is a document that I started on my desktop. It's not on OneDrive as yet. That's what I had mentioned. So it's asking me to upload it to OneDrive, which I have the option to do so. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to click OK. I'm hoping that you can see it. If you can't see it, it should come up in a second, because I'm realizing that it may not be there. But what's happening is that I'm able to select persons within my organization and send them an email with this document for them to co-author with me. So Adriana and Nestor, I just send you a link to the document. As soon as you're able to, just open it and we'll just work on this document together. While they're trying to get access to it, I'll work on some other things in the meantime. So I'm going to just add some sections to this document. So I see that Adriana is in this document right now, and I see that because to the top right, I'm seeing her avatar. I'm seeing Nestor is here as well. So that same flag that I turned on to show their names, I'm able to see it right here. So I'm just gonna ask you guys to go ahead and create some new pages so I can start working on the table of contents. So to put together my table of contents, I'll need to do a few things. I'll need to ensure I have some headings in the document. So I'm gonna do that right now. So you can notice the difference between the regular text. And let me zoom in just in case there are some persons who can't see. I think that should be a lot better. So once it's selected as a heading, and I'm actually gonna throw this on another page. So let me insert a page break right here. So that goes onto another page. Let me just insert a blank page. So on this first page is where my table of contents is gonna go. So I'm gonna go to references. To the left, I have table of contents, and I'm just gonna choose automatic. And those are the table of contents that are automatically generated. As I said, this can be customized. So let's say that I wanted to have a message here to say, I'm able to add text around the table of contents so that it's easier to understand what each section means. So for example, maybe it's not clear, maybe there are some notes that I want to make or just add something. So let's say that I want to show that this overview was worked on by myself, and I'm gonna have Nestor working on that section. I can actually leave it that way, and it's a part of my table of contents. If at some point you make changes, so let's say that we have, that I have something from the paragraph that was selected as a header by accident, and so when I go to my table of contents, I'm seeing it there. All I have to do, as I said before, if I mouse over, you see that it says Control click to follow. So once I click on that, it brings me to that text. I simply select it, go back to choosing normal, and then to the left here, you see I have the option to update the table. And I update the entire table because this is now not going to be a part of the table of contents. I click OK, and my document is updated. All right, so the next feature that I wanted to show you before we close this demonstration, I'll go to the final page. I'll just choose a blank page here. All right, guys, I see that you're working very hard on this document here. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna try to type this section using the dictate feature. So I'm gonna click dictate to the right. So Office 365 is Microsoft's collaboration solution that is meant to empower persons of all organizations to do more. Full stop. So you notice there what it was able to do is it did a pretty accurate job. It's actually still typing because I'm talking, which is fine. But you get the idea. So I'm able to work on this document with, not typing. And when I'm done, I can just go through, customize. Let's say that I wanted to add something to an next paragraph, I could do that. And if you're looking at this and you're wondering why you're seeing the dots in between each word, that's because we turned on that in the display section when we're in options. So I'm going to turn off dictate, and let's say I just want to customize this document quickly. I can do that. I can make something let's say I wanted to change this a different font, I can do that now and things like that. But it's not a bad way to go about, you know, having it's a very cool tool depending on the application. You can use it depending on your need. And I believe that is it for my demonstration. So I'm gonna hand over to, so I'm gonna stop sharing and go back to the presentation real quick. All right, and I'm gonna hand over to Marcy.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this webinar so far, and I hope you're learning a lot. We're going to do a knowledge check to see if what you've learned so far and how far, what else you need to know. So please scan the QR code below or open the link kahoot.it. This link will bring you to the game screen, and then you can enter the game pin to start playing. I'm going to share the question screen with you. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we have 3 players already online. So please go to kahoot.it and then enter the game pin, and so we can start the game. If you don't, if you didn't hear the link, you can go to the Q&A tab, and you can find the link to kahoot.it and also the game pin as well. We're just going to wait 1 more minute to give everyone a chance to log in. Okay, so let's start, guys. So the question will appear on the screen. It's a true or false question. The requirements for dictating in Word, a Microsoft 365 subscription, and a mic-enabled device. Is this true or false? Please tap the question on your phone, the answer on your phone. Okay, so 4 people answered correct. Okay. Alan is our number 1. Question 2, which of the following answers is an example of co-authoring or real-time collaboration in Word? Please tap the right answer on your phone. You have 10 more seconds. You're on a timer. Right. Oh, Adriana. Okay, quiz. 9 times 3 equals? You have 30 seconds to answer. The faster you answer, the more points you get. Okay. Next. Right, a person has a streak with 3 correct answers in a row. Let's go to the next question. Word does not have an online version. Is this true or false? You have 30 seconds to answer. You have 10 more seconds to answer. All right. Well, a person is still number 1. Let's go to the next question. What is not a benefit of using Word? Please tap the correct answer on your phone. This is the last question. Okay, and let's see who our winner is. Hey, person, congratulations. You've just won a lifetime of bragging rights. Thank you for participating, everyone. I will stop sharing my screen and give the floor back to Jermaine.
All right. Thank you, Marcy. I hope that was fun. I hope that you guys took a screenshot and you use that as your avatar, and just so people know that you are a Kahoot champ. So that's what I do when I play anyway. So what we want to do here is, if you have any questions while we're still on the webinar, please feel free to ask them in the chat. If you have questions outside of this, let's say you're watching this on our YouTube channel, which this video will be made available on, feel free to leave your comments there. Feel free to reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. We are available at any time you need for questions, concerning Word or any Office suite or application, and feel free. So would definitely love to hear from you. I'll ask you, Marcy or Adriana, to leave that link to the evaluation form in the chat so persons can fill it out. Would definitely love your feedback. We do these webinars every month, and we want to be able to get better and better at them. We do them to provide the best value for you and to introduce technologies and scenarios that we believe will be of value. So please take the time now to complete that webinar, that evaluation form, and I believe that is it. So thanks to everyone again for attending. Thank you for your active participation. Please do take the time to practice the features that I've shown, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We do want to remind you of our next event. So on the 26th of November, we will be having a similar Get a Bit More Out of Your Office Apps event for Excel. So please do feel free to join us. You will receive the link to the registration for that webinar in your email, as you did for this one. You will also receive the recording of this webinar in your email in case you were unable to catch it completely or you want to review some of those very helpful tips that Jermaine shared with us. It's been a pleasure having you here today. We do understand that you can choose how you spend your time, so we, once again, thank you for spending it with us. Have a great day.